So people, this is an unbiased take of me ranking every single Call of Duty Zombies map. Now unfortunately this is just from World at War to Black Ops 3 because other than 2 maps on Cold War, I have not played any maps beyond Black Ops 4, so you're only going to get World at War to Black Ops 3. But still, this is going to be fun and it's going to be unbiased and it's going to be the truth, so do relax and enjoy my amazing opinion. Now the ranking system is just going to be A, S, B... Why did I start with A? The ranking is going to be S, A, B, C and Poo because I just wanted to be a bit different, that's all, nothing crazy. The maps are also in alphabetical order rather than when the maps came out, so this is going to be interesting. I'm also basing this on the map's first appearance, so for example Ascension, I'm doing the Black Ops 1 version, not the Zombies Chronicle version on Black Ops 3. But speaking of Ascension, it is first, so we will rank it. It is a B tier map. I think it's pretty good. I think it is, in my opinion, the best DLC map on Black Ops 1, but I'll be honest, I'm not really a big fan of the Black Ops 1 maps. This is decent. I do like the introduction of the Ghost devices and the Matryoshka dolls, PhD Flopper and Stamina Up, and I do like the layout, it's pretty cool, not to mention something I actually do really like about the map is it has a static box location and the power, so it's always there when you go to the power, but there are some things which I never understood about this map, and the main thing is the monkey rounds. The monkey rounds themselves aren't bad, but why do they take their... Why do you take their perks? Why? I'm so confused that I'm not even speaking English. Why do they take your perks? It defeats the purpose of buying perks. They introduced 2 new perks, PhD Flopper and Stamina, but then they introduce a mechanic which takes them away, so what's the point of having more perks if you're going to take them away? I do like how the Thunder Gun does return on this map, and I also like how we have the sickle as well, which I think is cool, and the Bowie knife, but it's just the monkey rounds are just what confuse me. I think they're a clever mechanic, but just taking away the perks thing. Why? It shouldn't be a permanent thing. What I think they should have done was, if you survive the round, you get the perks back that you were taken, or at least one of them, because it can get a bit too overpowered, especially if you have more than 4 perks, but at least give one back. I just don't like it. It does have the first full-on Easter egg, of course. Previous maps did have the Easter egg songs, but this is the first full-on Easter egg, which, whilst you can't do on solo, is still pretty cool, and you do get a reward for it, which I believe is a 1 minute and 30 second death machine. Now we go to Buried. In my opinion, it is the greatest casual zombies map of all time. It is an A tier map. It is phenomenal. The best thing about this map is that you can do so much. That's what makes it great. You have such variety and versatility with the map. You can do whatever you want. You can hardly do anything and still have fun. You can do absolutely everything. Also the fact that, even though it's difficult, you can do the Easter egg on your own, so you can just have fun. It is a brilliant map. I don't really like that the witches take points off you. I feel like they should have just done damage, as in damage to your health, rather than take away points. I think that's a little bit too harsh. Yes, it does make you think of what you should do before you go into the witch's house, but I think it should just been something which would just hurt you regarding to your health rather than taking away your points. Also, I think there's too many wonder weapons in this map. I feel like the Raygun Mark II should have been introduced in a separate map rather than with the Paralyzer, because it just makes it a little bit too OP. And whilst I'm not going to rate maps on the difficulty, when something is a little bit too easy, I feel like they should have made it a little bit more varied. But look, it's a fantastic map, and it is one of my go-tos on Black Ops 2. It is almost the best map on the game. There's one more map which I do find better on Black Ops 2, but this is definitely up there. It is terrific. Now we move on to Call of the Dead. It is a B tier map. I think it's a fun map. I do have fun playing it, but I think it's overrated. And the main thing is, no traps. There is nothing regarding traps. I think a map should have traps. Even if it's just one trap, a map should have traps, especially with something that lacks a powerful wonder weapon. The Scavenger's cool, the VR-11, if you're on co-op, is cool, but the VR-11, unless you're doing the Easter egg, is pointless on solo. It is really, really weak. I think if you pack a punch it and shoot a zombie 3 times, it kills the zombie, but that is it. It's just weak. And like I said, unless you're playing with co-op, which then it becomes effective, I just don't see the appeal of it. George Romero following you around as well. He should have been a boss zombie rather than something that follows you around the entire game. And what they should have done regarding the free perk and the weapon, the Wonder Weapon, whether it's the Death Machine or the Wunderwaffe, is if you don't get damaged by him, then you, or 100% accuracy, something like they do in Die Rise, then you should have got the free perk, but him constantly following you, it's more of a nuisance rather than a great mechanic into the map. Also, the fog, which I know it is realistic, but zombies aren't realistic anyway, so I don't think it should have been something which was added into the map. And I gather it's probably due to the fact that the consoles can't handle having no fog, but it just ruins it. It really ruins the aesthetic, because it is a beautiful map, but it just ruins it. This was the map that also introduced Deadshot Daiquiri, which the Cold War Deadshot Daiquiri is phenomenal, but the one before that, if you're on PC, it is essentially worthless because of the way that the PC works, and on console, you just have better perks out there. PhD Flopper, Stamina, which were introduced in the previous map, but you just have more fun with those perks rather than something which is brand new. But here we go. Next up is the Eisendrache. It is the greatest Call of Duty Zombies map of all time. It is S tier. It is SSSS tier. It is 11 out of 10. This is perfection. It is a piece of art. This is something you'd have in the Louvre. It is phenomenal. First of all, the aesthetic of the map. I love the setting. It is beautiful. I love the dragon heads. I love the bows. I love the upgrades. I love the Easter egg that you can do on your own. I love the introduction of the reintroduction of the Panzer rather than the introduction. I love everything about this map. How can you dislike this map? I think the most underrated part of this map are the Ragnaroks, which, if you played multiplayer on Black Ops 3, you'll know the gravity spikes were really, really fun to use, but the Ragnaroks are just so fun to use. I think it's the most underrated part of the map, and we should talk about them more because they're just so fun. I love the Easter egg, I love how you can do it on your own, and also the boss fight in the Easter egg is so cool, nothing you'd ever seen before, and I just love it. And it's difficult as well. It adds a challenge to the map because the map itself is quite easy, but that adds a level of difficulty which you can experience, and it is so satisfying and so rewarding when you beat the Easter egg because you get all the perks. Doris is next, the World at War version, and it is an S tier map. It is my personal all-time favourite map. It's not the best, but it's my personal favourite. But there are some flaws with the map, which it's why it's not the greatest, but it is my personal favourite, and it's the go-to map whenever I play zombies on any game, not just World at War, just any game in general. It's terrific. The introduction of the Bowie knife, Pack-a-Punch, teleporters, monkey bombs, a full-on, well, I say full-on Easter egg, but there is a hide-and-seek game, which I think is super cool. I love this map. It's just so simple, but so effective, and obviously in the storyline, it is super important. However, it is slightly broken, and I know it was made in 2009, but it's just, that's what makes it not perfect. It is slightly broken. I mean, knifing is, they introduced the Bowie knife, but knifing on World at War is awful, so you almost can't buy it because even if you're on an insta-kill, you have to typically shoot, so it kind of makes the Bowie knife worthless, even though it's a fantastic addition. But look, it's my personal all-time favourite. I just love it so much, and I always try to do a Pack-a-Punch challenge on it. I always try to Pack-a-Punch every single weapon because it's just so fun to do. I love it, and this should be the go-to map if you really want to get into something that's hard but really, really fun. From my personal favourite map to the worst map of all time, Die Rise, it is poo. It is the worst map of all time. I hate this map. It's honestly easier to say what's right about this map than what's wrong about it because there's so little that's right about this map that I'd be here for hours explaining why this map's bad. The only cool thing about this map is the Slickwarfire, the Wonder Weapon, but it got nerfed, so it just made it worse. Wonder Weapons are meant to be overpowered. That's why they're called Wonder Weapons. Otherwise, what's the point of calling them that? And that PhD flopper troll is just... I like a good joke. I like, when something is humorous. I think everyone does. We all love a good joke. But that is not funny. That is just irritating. That is beyond trolling. Let's have a perk on the map that you can't get. And it's the one perk which would genuinely be really useful. And it wouldn't really make a difference to the level of difficulty on the map because it's easy, but that wouldn't make it easier. It just wouldn't. They brought back Mule Kick on this map, but Mule Kick is pretty redundant on this map. You don't really need it. You just need the Sliquifier and potentially the AN94. The lifts are, or elevators, depending where you're from, those are irritating. What a stupid mechanic that is. What they should have done, which they did in a Black Ops 3 remake, I believe, is you can call the lift where you want it to go, so you don't have to wait for it. So, for example, if you want to get double tap from the lift that it's in, you can call it up and it will be there. If they're going to have a mechanic like that in the game, that's what they should have done, not you have to wait, because even when you pack a punch in, even before you grab the weapon, it can leave, so you'll miss out on your weapon if you're not quick enough. That is ridiculous. I genuinely think the best thing about this map is that when you die, when it's game over, it foreshadows Mob of the Dead, which is one of the best maps of all time. That is the best thing about the map. It foreshadows the next map. Okay, so for some reason my audio cut out, so I have to explain this over a voiceover. I was going to go for 5 next and explain why it's an underrated map and why I put in A tier. I do love the layout, I love how the characters are from the campaign, I love the Easter egg song, I just love the map in general, and in fact I think the Pentagon Thief is an underrated boss. I think it's a great idea. It is an A tier map and not an S tier map. There are some things I don't like, and the main thing is the Winter's Howl. It's an awful wonder weapon, and it's also on the Black Ops 1 version of the Rook, so let's have one of the worst wonder weapons in 2 of the hardest maps in the game. What a great idea. Now we move on to Gorod Krovi, which is an A tier map as well. If you're a football fan, hopefully you'll get this reference. Gorod Krovi kind of reminds me of James Milner. Yeah, he's not world class, but he's good, and there's nothing really to critique about that. He's just good and will get the job done. That is how I describe Gorod Krovi. It's just a really good map and doesn't really do anything wrong. Now, this is the one which I think will annoy a few people. Kino de Totem. I'm putting it in C tier. This is the most overrated zombies map of all time. Hear me out and I'll explain why. Kino de Totem was originally going to be on World at War, but it was scrapped because of the timing of the release of Modern Warfare 2, so it was put on Black Ops 1. That one switch is the main reason why people love this map so much, because it's a base game map and people have nostalgia for it. I think it's just decent, and that is it. I don't think it's anything more, I just think it's decent. I love the aesthetic of the map. In my opinion, it's one of the best of all time. I love the Easter egg song, 115 is iconic, but that is really all that stands out to me. I truthfully think that this map has aged pretty poorly. Even the things that the map introduced, so the Thunder Gun and the Nova Crawlers, they were originally going to be on 5, but then they were moved to Kino de Toten. I don't know why the Thunder Gun was moved to Kino. I don't think it suits the map at all. The Wunderwaffe is a weapon which should have really been on the map, and it was obviously going to be because this map was going to be on World at War. It's cool, but it should have been saved for 5. Look, I do get the appeal of this map. It is a casual map. It's something that you can just shove on with your friends. It has that nostalgia factor, but I can't really have fun on this map unless I put some sort of restriction on myself, so I can only use pistols only, I have to stay in the starting room, examples like that. I think nostalgia has really played its part into making people think this is one of the best maps of all time, but it's just decent, and I'd actually argue it's closer to being the worst map on Black Ops 1 than the best. Going from an overrated map to a map which everybody loves, and I get why people love this map, it's Mob of the Dead, but I'm going to put it in A tier, and it is... I understand why people put this in their all-time best. It is really good fun, but I just think it is slightly below the greatest of all time. The main thing I love about this map is the introduction of the Blundergat. It is the coolest weapon of all time. The fact that it has 3 different upgrades as well, it's great. You have the Acid Gat, the Victrolic Wyvern, I can't say it for some reason, and you have the Sweeper as well. What a cool weapon that is. The aesthetic of the map, the afterlife system, the characters, the weapons, the perks, it's a brilliant, brilliant map. And also the Plaid, which I don't think you've ever seen anything like that in Zombies before, so it's something brand new and something really refreshing, which I think Zombies really needed. This map, in Grief mode, mind, also brought back PhD Flopper, which is sort of useful on this map. I mean, you do have the Vitrolic Wyvern upgrade for the Blunder Gap, but it doesn't really do that much splash damage, so you don't actually need PhD Flopper on this map. But the main thing I dislike about this map is the PhD Flopper and Mule Kick perk troll. It's not funny, it's just silly and petty and ridiculous, because let's have two perks which could actually add some value to it, and no, it just doesn't, it's not cool, it's not funny, it's just no, don't do it. It's not, I don't like it doesn't work. Also, the Brutus lockdown system is slightly irritating. If he did it for just one thing at a time, so if he just did one perk during a cycle, then I could let it slide, but he doesn't stop until you kill him. And the worst thing is, there's an achievement on the game where you'd have to let Brutus lock down everything on the map, but half the time he doesn't even go for it, so you're trying to get this achievement, but he doesn't actually do what he's meant to do. But look, it is still a terrific map. It's one of the best of all time, not just on Black Ops 2, and I have lots of fun playing it. So the next map is Moon, and whilst I do have some more appreciation for it, especially since playing the Zombies Chronicles version, it's still a C tier map. I still think it's just okay, and I don't particularly have that much fun playing it, but here's why. The excavator system. That is stupid. Why would you? Why? That doesn't add a challenge to it. That just makes the map irritating. There's adding a challenge, and then there's adding a mechanic which just completely ruins the game. Why destroy parts of the map? Yes, I know one of the excavators is for the Easter egg, but it's just why? It just ruins part of the map and makes it more difficult for no reason. If you're going to make a map more difficult, just make it difficult on its own. You don't need to add something which makes it more difficult. The astronaut boss is also just stupid as well, and it's not even the actual astronaut boss itself, it's what the astronaut does. Taking your perks away, that's not a fair punishment for getting hit. Why? That's not fair. There's something else on the map which was never fixed. If you end the round and you teleport back to No Man's Land before the round starts, when you teleport back to the moon, the next round only has 24 zombies, so it's an easy round. I can't believe that was never fixed. Don't get me wrong, I love the new wonder weapon on the map, the Zap Wave Gun. I think it's brilliant. Mule Kick was also introduced on this map, and it's one of the few maps where Mule Kick is genuinely useful. Playing on the moon is really, really cool, and the Easter egg is the greatest of all time, but just more things irritate me than make me happy, and that's just what ruins it for me. Now we move to Nacta and Toten. It is a B tier map. It was very, very good for its time. It's the first ever Zombies map. It is iconic, but it's one of those maps which I just don't really go back to playing, and that's why it's only B. But look, it's the first ever map. You have to appreciate the first ever map. Now we go to Nuketown. I also think this map is really underrated, and I think people don't like this map because it's too hard, but I'm someone who played a lot of multiplayer, so I appreciate Nuketown a lot. It's, in my opinion, the greatest multiplayer map of all time, so being able to play zombies on it, I found so cool, and I still find so cool. I think it's brill. I am 50-50 on the perk spawning system. I think it's really cool in terms of how the map is, but I can understand why people don't like it, because you might get Juggernog on round 3, you might get it on round 18. I think at one point it used to be round 25, which that is ridiculous. The map is played around the same time as Moon in terms of the storyline, so if you got to round 25 of Nuketown, the eye colour of the zombies actually changes from orange to blue, so that's also really, really cool. This is also the only zombies map that have the M27 in it. If you didn't play Black Ops 2 multiplayer, you wouldn't understand how good the M27 was. So to have it on Nuketown was really, really cool, and I actually like how it was an exclusive to Nuketown Zombies. I do think this is underrated, and it's a great survival map. It's, in my opinion, the best survival map out there, and I love playing it. I think it's brilliant. Now we move on to Origins. One of the best maps of all time. I think a lot of people agree with me on that. It is just brilliant. I could sit here for hours explaining why Origins is such a good map, so I'll only talk about things I don't like about it and why I don't think it's the greatest map of all time. And it's just one mechanic which they could have altered to make it slightly better. The generator zombies, I think there is a specific name for them, but I don't really like what they did with them. What they should have done is if you stopped a generator, then that generator is not targeted until all other generators have been targeted. I think that's what they should have done. Because Generator 4 could have been prevented from being destroyed, but then it's Generator 4 again the next time they're around. That's just... I don't like the randomness around that. I think what they should have done was, if you prevented Gen 4, then Gen 4 isn't targeted until all the other generators have been targeted. But apart from that, it's a brilliant map and one of the best of all time. Now we have Revelations. No, it's a C tier map. I don't really... it's just not my vibe, and yeah, it's cool to have all those wonder weapons in, but that's really it. I just don't... Nah, it's just okay. There's nothing... It's not great, it's not terrible, it's just... yeah. Concept's really cool. Having a load of maps into one, that's a cool idea, and in my opinion, this is one of the best features of the map, is... depending on what map you are in the map, the actual music changes. So if you're on Nectar and Totem, then it's the Nectar and Totem music. If you're on Shangri-La, it's the Shangri-La music. If you're on Kino, it's the Kino music. I really, really like that, but that is the only thing that really stands out to me in my opinion. Now we have Shadows of Evil, one of the best maps of all time. It's an S tier map, and people used to hate this map, and I do understand why. It is complicated, it is difficult, but once you get the hang of the map, you will absolutely love it. There's two things that stand out to me on this map. The Beast Mode system, very similar to the Afterlife system, and it's also brilliant. And the Apophthegm Servant, which it's the greatest wonder weapon of all time. If you have an Alchemical Antithesis and an Apophthegm Servant, just use it and keep spamming the Apophthegm Servant. It is the most fun I have ever had playing zombies. It's such a simple thing, but I have so much fun playing this. The map did also introduce Widow's Wine, which is a fantastic perk, and it really fitted the atmosphere of the map. It's brilliant. Next up is Shangri-La, which I will put in B tier. I do think it's decent, but the Shrieker and Napalm zombies, I just, that's the thing that ruins it for me, but especially the Napalm zombies, because PhD Flopper's on the map, but you're still affected by it, even if you have PhD Flopper. How does that work? PhD Flopper prevents explosion damage, but you can still get hurt by explosions from the Napalm zombie. Why? But look, it's still a decent map. The Baby Gun, which is the wonder weapon in the game, it is brilliant, and it's up there with the Simplifier and the Apophthegm Servant as the greatest wonder weapons of all time. Now we have Shinonuma. It is a low C tier map. It's boring, but especially the World at War version. I wasn't going to rate maps on the difficulty because I think that's a little bit too unfair. However, the World at War version of this map is the easiest map of all time, and it just makes it so incredibly boring. I mean, I love the introduction of the new characters, and of course, they're the characters that we know and love still to this day, and I also love the introduction of the Wunderwaffe. I also love the introduction of the Hellhounds, but it's just not a great map. I don't have fun playing it, and it's just way too easy. Luckily, this was fixed in Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3. That's the reason why it's not a poo map, because on Black Ops 1 and 3, they actually changed the way the zombie system works, so it did make it a bit more difficult and a bit more fun. And alongside everything that's good about the map, you know, the Flogger Trap and the Easter Egg Song and the Wunderwaffe and all that stuff, it does make it a decent map, but the World at War version is awful. Speaking of awful maps, the next map is Transit. It is poo, but I won't lie to you, I do have fun playing Transit. Transit is objectively a terrible map. I think people can agree with me on that. Objectively, it's not great, but am I the only one that has fun playing this map? The setup is the worst of all time. I've never had to experience such an awful setup, but when you're actually set up, it isn't actually a bad map. But of course, the worst thing about this map is the Pack-a-Punch system. What do you mean that you have to put a turbine down at the power, then go back to the town, and then it might work? Not it will work, it might work, because the zombies will have either destroyed it or the turbine just runs out of power. What a stupid concept that is. What they should have done is the door that's at the power, it should have cost something like 3,000 points to open it, and then the door at the bank is permanently opened. That's what they should have done. And the fact that the survival maps in Transit are all objectively better than Transit itself, that is a big problem. But look, I can appreciate it because they did try to do something new, which it didn't go well initially, but I do appreciate them actually trying. The penultimate map is Verrucht, and I think it's a B tier map as well. In fact, I'm going to put it in the middle of B tier. I think this is also fairly underrated. The World at War version is one of the most difficult maps of all time, and it's mainly because they have the fastest zombies in the entire game, and not just in World at War, I think of all time. It is so difficult and really, really scary. It's such a scary map, but it just works because Verrucht is German for asylum, so it really, stuck to that title. It is insane. This was the map that introduced the world to the perk system, the teddy bear, and traps, which they're all really, really cool, which you might be thinking, why is the teddy bear cool? But I don't really like the idea of the box staying in one spot. I think that's a little bit too easy and a bit of a cop-out. I do like how it actually moves. To me, it really adds to the idea of a mystery box. You could be punished for opening the box. I do like that concept. This is also the first map to introduce full-on voice acting with the characters, which is also really cool, but I think the way that they did the voice acting, I just don't think it suited the map. I think the American soldiers being a bit too defiant didn't really work as well as it might have on other maps, but look, it's still a cool concept. I just would have changed it slightly so they were a bit more scared, because you are being outrun by zombies in an asylum. It is terrifying. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, you're also separated in spawns, so the only way you can get back with each other is if you either go completely around the map or you turn the power on. But you didn't do that with 2 players, which I don't know why they didn't do it with just 2 players. I think that would have made it more challenging. If you go down before the power's on, then you're on your own. I think that would have added a nice challenging element to it if you're playing with 2 players. But look, I still think it's a good map, slightly underrated, but I can understand why people might not like this map. And the final map, goodness me, I've done a lot of talking, I've had to do a lot of re-recording, and no doubt that there are occasions where I'm not speaking properly. But we have Setsubu no Shima. It is another B tier map. I think this gets far too much stick. I do think this is a decent map. I know why people dislike this map. I understand why people dislike this map, but I have fun playing this map. I think it's pretty cool. I do have my critiques, of course. I think the KT3 Wonder Weapon, whilst when you use it properly is really fun, having something that's weak, just shooting once, I don't like that. If you can have a Wonder Weapon like that, either have 3 shots where it's really powerful, or just have the 1 shot which is really powerful and just reduce the amount of ammo. Don't have 1 weak shot and then 3 powerful shots. That's something I didn't like about the bows and the staffs in Origins and Eisendrache. Just do one or the other. The mini spider Easter egg boss fight is really cool, where you can get a free Widow's Wine, which no perk suits a map better than Widow's Wine on Setsubu no Shima. It is perfection. The actual Easter egg itself, the main Easter eggs, pretty cool, but a little bit too easy. It's just getting free cogs. But the main thing I dislike about this map is within the Easter egg itself. You have to be at least level 10 to do it, because you need the Anywhere But Here Gobblegum. Why would you make it so you need to have a certain Gobblegum to complete the Easter egg? Also, some of the tasks are way too hard. I mean, the mutating zombies thing, by itself, the concept, it's not bad. Just, kill a zombie whilst it's mutating, but it never works, and half the time you can't even get the zombie to mutate. But look, it's still an underrated map. I really like the planting system. I think that's really, really cool. I forgot what it's called, but the skull weapon that you can get as well. The most broken thing in the game, but my god, it's so much fun. But there you go, that is my ranking of every single Call of Duty Zombies map from World at War to Black Ops 3. There are going to be errors in my speech when I talk a lot. I do mumble my words, I do mess up my words. It's just gonna happen. Even if I have to re-record, it just happens. So I do apologise for that, but that is my ranking. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.